With the ceasefire still holding in Gaza, further evidence of the apocalyptic destruction of the enclave is emerging. Many of the 1.9 million internally displaced Palestinians in Gaza have now begun making journeys across the Strip to where they used to live. Most of them are flowing out of the narrow so-called safe zone of Al-Mawasi along the coast near the Egyptian border. But everywhere they go, the damage to cities, infrastructure, homes and roads is immense. According to UN estimates, 90% of housing units in the Strip have been destroyed or damaged. There are no functioning hospitals, and thousands of unexploded munitions litter the more than 50 million tons of rubble left by Israel's bombardments. But once reconstruction begins, if it begins, Gaza also faces a less visible difficulty. Almost half of the enclave's population are children. Before the war, Palestinians had one of the highest literacy rates in the world. But since October 2023, Israel's war has destroyed or damaged 496 out of Gaza's 550 schools, and more than 500 teaching staff have been killed. All this means the children of Gaza have now missed more than a year of formal education, but there have been some organisations trying to keep learning going. Gaza Great Minds was set up by a group of teachers who wanted to reignite learning after their educational centre was bombed and demolished. They funded the setup of a tent to provide free education to 50 students. The organisation has expanded since then, and they now provide education, psychological support and one meal a day to over 1,000 students. The organisation has also put on cultural activities to try and bring some light to young people traumatized by war.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Do you hear this? The drones, 24/7 hovering above our heads. Do you want to see what we have inside our northern tent? Gaza Great Minds, without border tent. Let's see together.
The man you saw at the start of that video was English teacher Ahmad Abu Razik. He is the founder of Gaza Great Minds. And earlier I spoke to Ahmad from Gaza City. In the conversation, Ahmad spoke about the challenge of educating children in a war zone and his hopes for the future of Gaza. But I started by asking him to describe where he was speaking to us from.
I'm one of the most luckiest people in Gaza because the building where I am is not totally destroyed. It's partly destroyed. I'm literally now standing on the rappels. As you can see, it's partly destroyed. The rocks are everywhere. And this is where I make the streams. This is where I sit. And why I should be here, because I'm using eSIMs on my phone to bring internet. There's no internet connection in Gaza. So I had to go to a higher place like this one. I'm on the 4th floor. I don't know if you can see that. But I'm on the 4th floor and I need to be here. Even it's really cold. I'm freezing, as you can see. But I had to do this to have internet connection. Now, no house, especially in the north of Gaza, has left or standing. All of them are totally destroyed, or, like my apartment, partly destroyed. Me and my family, we tried to move the rappels and find a room and stay in it. It's better than staying in the tent. But 90% of people, especially here in the northern side of Gaza, are living in a tent. Simply on the streets. They're sitting in a tent, in a nylon tent. It's really cold at night, by the way. The rats and insects coming 24/7. My house, my original house, it's not my house. This is a renting apartment that after 7th time of evacuation, we reached this point. And now this is, as you can hear, this is Adhan, the call for the prayer. I don't know if you hear it or not. So this is a renting apartment we are in, and we are supposed to leave it by next week because the owner of this apartment, his house was totally destroyed and he needs to come here. So we need to find another place, and it's not easy at all. So we will be living in a tent next week.
Why did you decide to stay in Gaza City? I suppose we've talked so much on this show and throughout sort of the Western media, so the presumption has been that most people have gone from the north of Gaza to the south of Gaza. We talk so much about people going to the Al-Mawasi, supposedly safe zone, where people still ended up getting shelled and hit by airstrikes. But why did you decide to stay in Gaza City over the past 15 months?
There was no option because many people, while they were on their way to the southern side of Gaza, they were bombed. Simply, while they were going to the so-called humanitarian areas or the safe zone, they were killed on the road. And you are talking about hundreds of massacres were committed in these humanitarian areas. So there's no place in Gaza is safe. We knew from the first day that they are lying on us by saying that it's a safe zone or not. If it's the safe zone, why people were massacred, why thousands of people were killed in the same certain point that Israeli said that, okay, people go there, you're gonna be safe. Hundreds, Michael, thousands of people were killed in these humanitarian areas. So I'm really glad that I didn't go there, because either I would be killed on the way with my 3 kids. I had to go on foot. There's no vehicles, by the way. You need to walk, and maybe you will reach there after 2 nights, or so you need to stay at the street. So it's not easy. It's not an easy option to take. Or you will go there and living in a tent, and you could be a target, just killed just because you're a Gazan. There's no safe places in Gaza. I'm sorry to say that.
The situation you're describing, and sort of the scenes that so many of our audience will have seen sort of on social media of the destruction of Gaza, I mean, it looks hellish. And the idea that you carried on sort of an educational institution, yes, a sort of somewhat ad hoc one, sort of conducted in tents and the like, that will seem incredibly impressive to the people watching this, and almost impossible. I mean, how do you teach kids in the middle of a war zone?
We are not just giving them the academic study. I tried through my initiative to give them hope, because simply our students lost hope in the whole world, the whole universe, and the humanity in the outside world. So through our initiative, or in our tents, we were focusing on connecting them with the outside world by sending messages from and to the students. And the students were wowed. Okay, for example, Michael is sending a message to me in Gaza and motivate him to study. And he sent another message out, and it's been read. And you will see these examples here in our website or our platforms. But let me tell you something about Gaza. We are people value education a lot. And I'm going to give you an example. There was in the recent invasion into the northern side of Gaza, we had to close the tent here in the northern side of Gaza for 2 days. 2 days. And we had many calls after those 2 days. From whom? From the fathers. What did they tell us? They told us, please open the tent. We told them it's risky. Maybe they will be targeted. They said, no, even if they will be targeted, let them smile while they are being killed, because there's no place in Gaza safe. So we had to open again. We continue. We talked with UNICEF, UNRWA. They came, they visited the tent. They were astonished by the work which had been done. And they really offered help, but Israelis stopped or prevented them from bringing trucks to Gaza full of resources and other things. So back to the question, how we teach. We in Gaza, especially here in the northern side of Gaza, we try to make students just take them from the streets, or take them from playing or running after the parachute bags, and build an environment for them to be treated as children, simply. So inside these tents, you will feel like you are a child, you play, you have a psychiatric, you just have fun. That's why our students love our tents, and they don't want to leave it.
And we're now 2 days into a ceasefire, which for now seems to be holding. Are you going to be continuing with your education program? And I suppose, what are your hopes now that there is, at least for the time being, some sort of peace? Do you think it's going to be easy enough to begin sort of expanding and rebuilding your program? What challenges will you face now?
First, it's not going to be easy because simply there's no places in Gaza left. So the rubble is everywhere. And we are simply making tents. But we will continue. Why? Because of two reasons. The first reason is there's no schools running in Gaza until the next year or after 2 years from now, because the rubble is big. All schools were totally destroyed or partly destroyed. So it needs a lot of time for the schools to be running again. The other reason that if we stopped, we will lost our generation, the students that we started with. You know, the gap is not easy. You are talking about over 1 year now. And most of the students, when we first gave them the classes, they couldn't even hold the pencil. They were panicked. They were shaking. So now we reach a point that if we stopped, all our work will stop. Like we will lose everything. So from now over, we will expand our tents. Alhamdulillah, thank God that we will be teaching without bombs on our heads or warplanes hovering above our heads. It's going to be a peaceful class, but it will be suffering because of also the resources. We need a lot of resources, educational resources, and we need wages for the teachers and other things to provide meals for the students because they are really, really need these things after more than a year from starvation. We will continue, and our goal is to reach 100 tent schools in Gaza. With that number, we will be teaching 50,000 students. We already did 5 schools in war, and we hope to have or to build 95 in peace.
I wonder if you could sort of speak to us about the experience of this war for the children that you've been teaching. I mean, we'll know from seeing the external figures how many children have been how many children have been killed, how many children have been injured, how many children have been orphaned. And I wonder if you could sort of explain what the experience has been like for children as you understand, given that you have spent sort of so much time teaching the children of Gaza City.
I will give you an example because it's easier to understand. When we first set up the tent, we told the students to draw a picture. What do you think they drew?
Well, I would imagine someone getting killed or a bomb.
Yes, people, coughed. People in jail, bombs, warplanes, and other terrifying things, and it was expected. The social trainer said that this is something normal as they are in war. After 4 months from our help, we told them to draw again. They drew the future. They drew their house being built again and rebuilt again. This is one example. And talking about orphans, this is the most heartbreaking thing. We had a child, his name is Amir, and he lost his father. His father was a great trader, by the way. He was very rich in Gaza. His father was killed, his house was totally destroyed, and they had to live in a renting apartment, totally destroyed apartment. Amir was very close to his father, and he wanted to continue his father's dream. So he wanted to be a trader. So what we have done, we went to Amir's mother, and we told him, okay, we want to run a business for Amir. He didn't believe at first, okay, this is the first business I will have. Yeah, we bring them ice drinks and a cooler, and he started to sell these to the students and on the streets. And he was very happy with that. He felt like, oh, I'm going to follow my father's step. And in that way, we helped him psychologically. He loved life again. He started to support his family, his mother, in these dire situations. So this is one example, and we have a lot of examples regarding that. But I can tell you, Michael, it wasn't easy at all. And I believe the coming days will be harder because now is the real work, mentally, psychologically, and from every aspect. We need to focus more because the coming generation will be full of hate, full of rage or anger, and we need to bring their childhood again. They don't deserve to see all of this. They are just children. So we will continue, inshallah.
There have been suggestions sort of throughout this whole ordeal that maybe the Gulf states would cough up money for rebuilding Gaza, and people talk about international coalitions or the Palestinian Authority sort of coming in to do the job. I'm not expecting you to sort of come with some fully formed solution to all of this. I mean, it seems impossible in a way. But do you have sort of any thoughts on what you want to see now, how you sort of see the rebuilding of Gaza working as we move forward?
Maybe you'll be shocked, but people start already rebuilding Gaza. People on the ground start to go to the rappels and move them by hand because there's no bulldozer or trucks to move these things. But it's really, really tiring. Like you are going back to the Stone Age and you need to do everything by your hand. If we want to wait till the Israelis allow the trucks or these instructions or rebuilding again, we will need a lot of time. So in our mind here, we hope in the coming few months, I'm not talking about weeks, it's going to be impossible. More, hands come and help Gaza, especially from the neighboring countries. If that happens, things will be faster and we will be able to set up our own school because we are thinking of making our own orphan schools to help those who are orphaned and those who are totally traumatized from war. So it's not easy at all, and people start to set up tents on the beach of Gaza because they know that this will take a lot of time. And there's no renting apartments in Gaza. And in every apartment, you will see 2 or 3 families living. So it's really crowded area. And we are expected after the southern people coming to the northern side of Gaza, it will be more crowded. So you are talking about this tiny place and a million people will come to this tiny place. So it's going to be really, really crowded and people will live another war after the war because the rebuilding is something that Gaza can't do it alone. We need governments, big governments to come and help. If that happened, I assure you, 1 year and you will see Gaza much, much better than this. At least regarding the rappels and the rocks on the streets. Another 2 years and you will see Gaza rebuilt again. But without help, it will take a lot. 10 years, 15 years at least.
Could you just talk about some sort of basic questions that our audience might be sort of curious about? Do you have access to water? Do you have access to food, to electricity? I mean, is the Gazan economy in any way functioning? For example, are people working in your sort of tent schools getting paid? Are the children's parents who you're teaching, do they have access to funds? What's going on? Or is it kind of a barter economy, all completely reliant on the aid agencies?
Lining life or the life of lines, this is how we live. So if you need to charge your phone, you need to stand in a line for 2 hours in order to charge it because we have some solar panels stations and you need to go there and stand for maybe an hour, 2 hours to charge your phone. Another journey, if you want to fill the gallon of water, you need to do the same thing because there are some organizations bringing trucks on the streets and to give people water, so you need to stand in line. Regarding, it's actually water is the most disastrous thing because it's really, really tiring. I'm talking about myself. It takes us about 2 hours, more or less, every day to fill just 25 liters of water, the gallon. So it's really tiring. We have to take it to the 4th floor by hand. There's no electricity to move the water up to the roof. And also to the food. If you want to eat now, I know now it's better now, but because there are some food in the markets. But regarding bread, because we're still suffering with this, when you go to the bakery, you will find a line, stay for 4 hours. So it's just aligning life. You need everything is in line, and you feel like you are a number. You're waiting your number to come to take your things and get back home, and you reach your home. No electricity, no cold, no warm water to take a shower. So you need to make a wood, to make a fire from wood. And recently we didn't have wood in the markets or even on the streets. People take everything. So we start to fire the nylon, the unhealthy things. It's really make cancer diseases and other things. Well, there's no other chance or choices. We had to make a fire to eat. And for example, one last thing. If you, Michael, before you sleep, you want to have a cup of tea, you prefer not to have it because you will suffer with fire and you will go to another area to make a fire, because you can't make a fire at home. It's risky. So it's not a life. It's not a life at all.
Ahmad Abu Razik speaking to me earlier from Gaza City. Really, really impressive, inspirational man who's been through some awful things. He did actually tell me before the part of the interview we showed you there that his father had been killed in the wars. Just incredibly strong, really, really impressive guy. And you can support Gaza Great Minds, which sounds like a great organisation, by going to their website and donating. So the website is gazagreatminds.org. We'll, of course, also put a link to that website in the description box below.